where I put my camera tripod is not a good place for viewing my screen. Well, I normally would use the screen right there, but my tripod's right here, screen's right there, but that screen's being used for something else that we're not using yet. And, yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Start see people coming in. No. Tonight I just have a simple English breakfast because I love English breakfast a lot. And it's delicious. Alrighty. So welcome back everyone. Tonight we are going to be doing a it's kind of a thing where the first hour it's going to be kind of general relax, hang out, like talk, chat. If you have any trigger requests and of stuff I can find, I have a lot of things just on shelves over there to grab as triggers. But if you have any trigger requests, let me know, and I have that. But this time I actually brought material to talk about. So, but that said, if you want to have any questions or just want to like talk and hang out, that is what this hour is for. So, yeah. So the main event that I have tonight is actually talking about doing a little live version of a video series, kind of video that I do a lot of, and that is talking about a deck tech of a not permanent deck that I have. I just threw this together for a game night I have coming up next week, and yeah, so we're gonna be walking through that and just hanging out with the chat, and but for the most part, like this is what I'm trying to get through in the hour. But I just built this from cards in my cube, and yeah, so it's one of those things one of the things I really like about having a commander cube is I just like, I've always wanted to try out, I've always wanted to build a Mathis Fiend Seeker deck, and I just have all the cards already sleeved and ready to go. I just had to pull them, put them together, cut down to 100, and here we go. We have a 100 card Mathis deck ready to go for a commander night next week. So, yeah. Well, let's just, excuse me, keep burping. No. Oops, that's in my face. I have my normal card overlay that I do in these videos where I'm just kind of like talking about, I have the entire deck list put in because it helps, and there's a big loud car going by because they're reasonable, and this might, nope, that's not where you want to go. I don't want you to change size, just go over here. That's not what I wanted you to do at all. 1 second. Lily is having trouble. Where'd the chat go? There we go. Yeah, no, totally. Oh, okay, this message is not going away. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it's really nice to just have a. Ooh, also, I have the chat now here. Ooh, thanks for that. All ready to go. But yeah, no, just having everything together and ready to go. But this is a Mathas Fiend Seeker deck, which is he is a 3-mana 3/3 menace in Mardu. And you can see where I actually don't need to show you the card because I have the card here. But he is menace, and but his main thing is at the beginning of your end step, put a bounty counter on target creature an opponent controls. For as long as that creature has a bounty counter on it, it has when this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and you gains 2 life. So it's this kind of weird, kind of like oops, move over somewhere, like almost group huggy in some ways, commander, where yeah, no, it's I don't know. I'm just like really like honing in on the politics angle. So we're going to be kind of like doing about that and stuff, and no, and we're going to I've built this as Mathis politics. So first off, let's just go through the lands. I'm running just because it's the boring part of the deck, and we can run through this pretty fast. I didn't spend a lot of time tuning this mana base. We have just 6 forests, or plains. I know what plains look like. But of course the Rebecca Gay plains, because they look the best. Likewise, I believe I also have 6 mountains and 6 swamps, which is just kind of pretty standard for what we're looking to do. But nothing too much. I'm not going to dwell too much on lands because it isn't an expertly crafted mana base. There's a lot of stuff I could have put into this deck, but I actually built 2 decks for my cube, and the other one's like a 4-color contraptions deck, so it kind of got the bulk of like the good lands. Like it got the fetch lands and all that. So, but this one doesn't get all the fancy toys because it's the 3-color one and not the 4-color one, but it still's a decent one. So, Nomad Outpost, because try land on its colors. Of course, I'm going to take that. I have the 3 vivid lands in its colors: crag, marsh, and meadow. Just as kind of a... I mean, they're fine. They enter the battlefield with charge counters on them. And essentially they tap for whatever color they're related to. But in a pinch, you can move a charge counter to add 1 mana of any color. So they're really nice. Then just Evolving Wilds, but of course my cube has the best art for Evolving Wilds, which is the Dark Ascension art for Evolving Wilds, which just looks really nice, and it's like, I love that art so much. And then a Terramorphic Expanse, because, I mean, again, I didn't spend that much time on this. Mana base, and Ash Barrens, Orzhov Basilica, Isolated Chapel, Caves of Quellos, Concealed Courtyard, Needle Spires, Boros Garrison, Battlefield Forge, Shadowblood Ridge, Ragnos Carnarium, Luxury Suite. Like, pretty standard, just like a few dual lands in each of the colors. Not really anything too fancy. Then we have a Blighted Fen. Blighted Fens is just kind of like having that extra removal on a land is nice. Like, this deck is very, very removal heavy, and yeah, so it's looking to like it's a politics deck where you can kind of do politics 2 ways, where it's like, yes, I'm going to give you things, but this deck is all about just being threats, and this deck has a ton of spot removal and things like that, where it's like, do what I say, or if you cross me, you will pay. And I have the means to make you pay, so yeah. Oh, I can pop out chat. Oh wow, that's awesome. Cool. That's not what I want. Oh, cool. I can just pop out chat entirely. Cool. Didn't know you could do that. Field of Ruin, because non-basic land hate is important. Okay. Words that mean things like non-basic land hate is just one of those nice things to have. Especially just with like all the Ixalan lands running around, and sorry, my brain is a bit scattered right now. But yeah, 1 second. I just realized I forgot to change something with the settings of this stream. I just forgot part of I just realized I hadn't finished the title. And it won't let me edit it live. Nope, yes you will. Sorry about this. I'm being super, like, scatterbrained. And I'm sorry about that. Okay, cool. We are... Okay, I'm back. So, Field of Ruin, just because with all like the Ixalan lands running around, it's just super nice to have a Field of Ruin just ready to go. Reliquary Tower, because, I mean, this deck doesn't draw that many cards, but, like, if Mathas is on the field and, like, its potential to just end up, like, drawing a bunch of cards that way, as well as just a lot of... It does have a little bit on the high end of card advantage, but it has good... It's a 3-color deck, so it doesn't really hurt by having a Reliquary Tower. Ramp, again, is also just pretty straightforward. I have the 3 diamonds of its colors, so Fire Diamond, Charcoal Diamond, and Marble Diamond. And then the 3 signets of its colors, which is a Rakdos signet, a Boros signet, and an Orzhov signet. Like, pretty standard ramp packages for Mardu. Like, Mardu is one of the worst, like, pairings for ramp. Not just being a non-green code deck is not great for its ramp. While still being, like, a black deck, but, like, not being able to take advantage of, like, the, like, Urborg or Cabal Coffers, or, the Geist that, you know what I'm talking about, yeah. We have Spectral Searchlight. Like, this is, I'm mostly just using as kind of like a manolith, but, this is a mana rock which you can give to anyone, which has, I guess, could have corner cases of political applications, but it's not really what I'm, it's not really what I'm looking to be doing. And then finally just a Worn Power Stone, because again, this deck's mana is pretty good, just being a 3-color deck, and Worn Power Stone is just real good to just get up to some the bigger, splashier stuff that I'm looking to do. Especially also since, like, I want to be able to recast my commander, and having a little bit extra ramp is nice. Just because this deck does wipe the board a lot, but yeah. So we're going to get into the actual, like, first part of the deck, which is going to be politics, and, like, the politics angle of this deck. So first up we got a Goblin Spymaster. This is a 3-mana 2/1 first strike with, at the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player creates a 1/1 red goblin creature token with creatures you control attack each combat if able. So there's a little mini theme here along the politics cards that are just making my opponents, like, attack. And there's going to be protection cards that make sure they don't try to attack me personally. Where kind of the win con of this deck is to kind of, I don't know, words that mean things, force your opponent's hand to, like, they are your win con, where they'll, like, whittle each other down and eventually take everyone out for you, which is kind of its goal, where things like this, where it's like you want to use that politics angle as your win condition. It's not like politics or, like, group hug, where you're just like, okay, I just want to stave off attention until, like, my win con, I, like, pull off, like, an infinite combo or something. But it's much more like, this is still, like, an attrition deck, because I love my attrition decks, while still being kind of like using your political resources, and using the card is all about backing up that, like, out of game politics aspects. We have Fumiko the Lowblood, which is honestly a criminally underplayed commander card in my opinion, because it's a 4-mana 3/2 with it has Bushido X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So and it has creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able. So this is another creature that makes your opponents attack. And she gets really big, which kind of dissuades people from attacking you, because obviously you have all of a sudden this huge creature. Fumiko grows to be very large. Whenever she blocks anything, so she will, if they have any sort of, like, large board, it'll just block them. And if they're holding back the utility creatures that they don't want to send into the red zone, she's there to just like gobble them up if you need to. And yeah, no, there's not much else to say. She's just very efficient about what she does. Cruel Entertainment. This is a fun card. It's not so much a good card, but it does a lot of really neat things. Where it's a 7-mana sorcery. Hey there, Ken. How's it going? Glad you made it. I mean, this is the only second ASMR live stream I've done for the channel, so welcome. Cruel Entertainment, though, is a 7-mana sorcery. Choose target player and another target player. The first player controls the second player during the second player's next turn, and the second player controls the first player during the first player's next turn. So, this is like a lot of opportunities to be kind of like cheeky and being like, ooh, like, it is a possibility that they're both like, okay, yeah, no, we're gonna go beat up on you, Lily, but, hopefully they won't. But it's really one of those ones that, like, it causes some potential political discord among the table that, like, even if it isn't, like, they don't, like, wreck each other's boards, it does give you opportunities to, I don't know, bend their actions against each other. Potentially, it's very much a, this is a very high variance card, in my opinion. Okay, not so much a political card, but kind of in the same camp of controlling other people's turns. I also have Emrakul the Promised End because this card is awesome. It's a 13 for 13. It's a 13/13 for 13 with flying, trample, and protection from instants. But she costs 1 less for each card type among cards in your graveyard. In practice, in general, in Commander, unless you're like specifically a self-mill deck, she usually costs about 9, which isn't unreasonable in Commander, and she has a very powerful effect, because when you cast her, you gain a target control of target opponent's next turn, which is pretty rad. Master Warcraft, which is a 2 Boros for an instant, where essentially you get to choose like how all attacks happen, which is so powerful in Commander. Oh yeah, no. Oh, Emrakul as Commanders is gross. I've always wanted to put together a like colorless Eldrazi deck. I mean, that'd be fun. Although I'd probably use Kozilek because I like the ability for Kozilek to refill your hand. That said, Emrakul though is still sweet. But Master Warcraft just has lots of opportunities to both either just do a ton of damage to another player, or just like essentially Master Warcraft on a lot of times it also can just be like an effective like pseudo one-sided board wipe. And yeah, no, it's just another honestly kind of criminally underplayed card. Like people like rag on Boros for like, oh, they're so bad at card draw and ramp, but it's like Boros is like so powerful in all those other aspects, and I think people really underestimate the power of a lot of the Boros cards in Commander, and like just something like this is just nuts. Disrupt Decorum, which is 2 red for sorcery. Goad all creatures you don't control. So until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. So it forces all your opponents to attack everyone else. And this is kind of exactly what this deck is looking to do. It's looking to just like, hey, you guys punch each other punch each other, and Mathis putting bounty counters on things, and people are dying, and like I'm drawing a bunch of cards to like get into like a lot of my more other removal and things like that. Because part of this is that they're having to attack, and this deck is going to be running a lot of spot removal, so it's very much like, don't attack me or your stuff will die. Attack someone else and your stuff won't die. And just have that threat to back it up. I also have a few of the Commander 2017 curses. I don't have the red curse because the red that makes treasure tokens, because that's currently in a contraptions deck I put together for this, because I kind of reassembled my contraptions deck that I took apart when I built the cube, because I want to bring that to Commander Night. But I've already done a video on that. First we have Curse of Disturbance, which is essentially all of these are whenever a pair attacks, the opponent that is attacking them gains something, and you also gain something. I mean, you also gain it if you attack them. Curse of Disturbance is they get a zombie, and also you get a zombie. So it incentivizes your opponent to attack that person because they get something, but you also always get something. So it's like kind of like a double thing. And we also have Curse of Vitality, which isn't as good, but it just gains you some life, which is useful for giving you a little bit of a buffer. We have a mini politics theme because it works really well with the fact that, like, hey, we are encouraging all our opponents to attack each other and not us. Why not? Let's just throw in some monarch mechanics. So I have 4 cards, I believe, that enable the monarchy in this deck because I love the monarchy as a mechanic in general in Commander. It's just a lot of fun. But we have Thorn of the Black Rose, which is a 4-mana 1/3 of Death Touch that when it enters battlefield you become the monarch. And 4-mana 1/3 of Death, like 1/3 of Death Touch, are a pretty good incentive on their own of, hey, don't attack me, or you'll trade for my Death Toucher that already got her value out of the way. Palace Sentinels, not as good, but it's another way to enable the monarchy. Oh yeah, the monarchy is so much fun. It's one of my favorite mechanics. Conspiracy Take the Ground was honestly one of my favorite formats, like, of all time. It was so good. It was just very poorly timed when it was released, so, which is sad. Skyline Despot, which is a 7-mana 5/5 flying dragon that becomes the monarch, and if you survive and are still the monarch when it comes around, you get a 5/5 dragon, which is cool. There's also the 3/5 giant and the black one that creates the monarchy, which I don't have for this, but yeah. And obviously, I don't have a Queen Marchesa, but a Queen Marchesa would fit right into this deck. I just don't have one. And then Marchesa's Decree, which kind of also disincentivizes them from attacking you because it will then drain them. I love this card. It's also like super cheap, and it's like if you don't have these, like, this is just a really nice card for Commander. Especially if anyone you're playing, if token strategies are common in your play group, it's just like very nice. I still need to figure out for my cube because I want to have like a special like crown for that reason, but I don't know what I want to do. I kind of want like, I don't know, like my whole cube I have is kind of like library themed, where I currently just have like them in BCW boxes, but what I do is I want to get like the books that you like paste together and then you hollow them out and then like add like latches and stuff and use those as like the cases for the cube itself, where maybe the bulk of the cube might not be that, but for like the tales and poems of the cube, where it's like, because if you haven't watched my cube videos, part of what my cube has is these things called tales and poems, which essentially there'll be a card that says like, it'll have the name of the tale, which like it might be like, okay, this is the Tale of Blood and Glory, which is a set of cards that are synergistic with each other that are all about vampires. And you give up the next like X picks you take, and you get the set group of cards. What I want to have is like a hollowed out book that you actually get from like a small book cart that I have like with the rest of the cube that has a whole tale and like the cover redone and decorated for the cube, that tale itself. And I have a lot of cool ideas, but I still need to make them. But just haven't gotten around to that yet. Okay, so the next part that we have is protection. Just more things to protect ourselves from being attacked and disincentivize people from attacking us. Up first, we have the classic protection thing, which is just Ghostly Prison. Just very efficient, not much else to say. We have the new edition, which is Baird, which is a mini Ghostly Prison on a body. It was fine. I don't have a No Mercy because No Mercy is expensive, but we have a Tessa, Envoy of Ghosts, which she's expensive. She's a 7-mana 4/4, but she's Vigilance Protection creatures, and whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, destroy that creature, and you get a 1/1. One thing that's nice is destroy. We want to avoid where we can exile effects because it doesn't work with Mathis's abilities. Oh, is it too quiet for me? Sorry about that. Let me check in here. Hello, is this any better? Sorry, I check my audio levels through Audacity and not OBS, and you're not hearing my Audacity levels. When I do the recording in the end, it will be all the audio levels will be evened out, and I'm also gonna like filter out background noise and things like that. So like the final version that I put for the archival version will be more in line with my normal videos, if that makes sense. But yeah, no. But Tesa, which is nice. The one when spirits are flying also are nice for like getting back the monarchy if I need to and things like that. Where she just synergizes very well with just what this deck is looking to do. Teferi's Protection, I think is the single most expensive card in this deck because it's like $30. And I just only have it because I happen to pick up like the Vampire Precon. Yeah, no. 2 and a white for instant. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile. Oh yeah, no, those stay in, but the main thing is like the hum of my computer gets like filtered out and things like that. Windborn Muse. Isn't Windborn Muse blue? Or am I thinking of a different king? Oh no, it isn't. I will have to get the one for the cube. I don't think it's on my cube. I think it is actually not there. Thank you for that heads up. I will keep that in mind because it's just not in my cube. Because I didn't really do research for this decks outside of my cube, because I was just like, it was one of those things where it's like, but I will add that to my list of things to pick up. My wish list for my cube is like stupidly long, and it's like I'll probably never get all the cards, but it's like if I see like a casual card that like I might want, I put it onto that list. I don't know. It's probably a bad idea to like show off like this horrible like list. Yeah, this wish list currently has over 2,000 cards on it. Yeah, take out, watch. That is my debauchery of cards that like I'm just like, oh, I see a card that I want for my cube. Ooh, let's put it on there. Not all these cards will make it onto my cube, but anything I remotely find interesting. But Teferi's Protection, essentially, it's just one of those amazing cards. It's one of the best cards in white, which is, it's just essentially 2 and a white. You can't lose for one turn, and in many ways, and also it's like none of your permanents can get destroyed or anything else, and all these other things. It's just, it's so good. It's so good. Now, I've mentioned this before, but now we're on to spot removal. This deck is running a lot of spot removal because, obviously, this deck is all about threats and kind of like getting people to do what you want, and you gotta have your like knife that you're like jabbing into their like back so they'll do what you want. You can't. You want to make sure your threats are real, and it's also kind of the benefit of like the more threats you do have, like the less you'll actually have to use those threats. Where it's like if you only have like some spot removal, yeah, you can say that it's like, hey, don't do that or I'll move your thing. If you have some of it, like they'll try to call your bluff. This deck, after a little bit of while, they'll stop calling your bluff because they'll know like this deck has a lot of oomph, and all of a sudden you're getting so much more mileage out of your removal and stuff, because obviously you're not actually having to spend it because people are just doing what they want and you don't have to like spend your removal on them, and you're just getting that invisible value by like getting value without having to spend resources, and that's super nice in Commander and why I love Politics decks. But first well, swords, obviously, because swords is just one of the best spells and removal spells in Magic. Mortify, again, just hitting enchantments is nice. There's a lot of relevant enchantments in Commander you want to hit. Terminate, another just solid creature removal. Path to Exile, I mean, like I said, I'm trying to avoid, like, the only things I'm using that are, like, exile creatures are, like, the absolute best of the best spells, like, so Path, Swords, obviously, just so good. Just, another exile one, but Anguish Unmaking, it's just the fact that it hits anything is just super nice and super useful. Chaos Warp, again, just being able to hit anything, again, it won't trigger Mathas if you need to, but normally if you're having to Chaos Warp something, it's usually worth it and you're not going to moan the loss of a card. And also, just like if you're playing on, like, Chaos Warping something, you're not going to put the bounty counter on it, so that also makes sense there. Entirely Normal Armchair. My group's cool of Silverboard cards, and I don't know, for kind of like this, just is a card that really fits this deck. But it's during your turn, if it is in this card is in your hand, you may hide it on the battlefield. There's 0, return this card to its owner's hand. Only any opponent may active this ability, and only if they see Entirely Normal Armchair. And you pay 2 and sacrifice it to destroy target attacking creature. So, essentially kind of like can hide it on the board, like underneath another card or something like that. Yeah, and you use it to just to kill something like on its on board. It really fits the whole theme of like, hey, no, don't attack me, no, bad. So yeah. Murder, like most classic of removal spells. I also like the conspiracy printing because it's just like that, like nice, like centered text, like that art. It's just like, oh, it's such a good murder. Yeah. Beautiful. Vertices maneuver. Either this can be an edict for all your opponents, or you can use it for the politics angle, and you can use the A to return. So, 2 and a black for sorcery. For each player, choose friend or foe. Each friend returns a creature card from their graveyard to their hand. Each foe sacrifices a creature they control. So, foes just like essentially, in the normal sense that you'd use this, it's like you get to return a creature card to your hand, and it edicts all your opponents, which seems solid. But you can also use it for the political angle of like, hey, you do me a solid, like, don't attack me for the next 2 turns, and I'll let you get back your thing, and things like that. Where, or it's like, hey, we need to like team up and like, okay, you have a Rex Sage in your graveyard. Here, you can be a friend, get back your Rex Sage, play that Rex Sage, get rid of their like Beastmaster Ascension that's gonna kill us or something like that. Where it has that flexibility while still just being a solid removal spell regardless. This card isn't a great removal spell, but it's just really funny, and I love it, which is 1 white, Prismatic Wardrobe, which is 1 white for sorcery. Destroy target card that does not share a color with clothing worn by its controller. You cannot choose an artifact or a land. So it hits, like, essentially creatures, planeswalkers, enchantments, and honestly, it's real solid. It's just, I just think it's funny. Like, it's sorcery speed, which is not really what this deck wants. This deck does want instant speed removal where it can get it, just because instant speed removal is where you want to be in this deck, because you want to be responsive to people's, like, putting out threats and things like that. Return to Dust, it's just an efficient thing where it's, if you need to exile an artifact or enchantment, and if you want to get 2, you can. It's just an efficient spell. Final Payment, not so much that it's very good in this deck, but more that I want to test it out, where it's white and black for instant. As additional cost to cast a spell, pay 5 life, sacrifice creature or an enchantment, and destroy target creature. Where it's just I kind of want to like it's just kind of like one of those things that like I want to try out and see how it goes. Like obviously it's best in a deck that's generating like lots of tokens, like ones to like sacrifice and stuff like an aristocrat's deck. But I mean the option just to pay 5 life, which is actually reasonable on Commander, isn't that bad for what is a pretty like nice removal spell, honestly. Got Avatar of Woe, which is an 8 mana 6/5, but it's only 2 mana if there are 10 or more creature cards in total in all graveyards. And by mid game, if this deck can play, that'll probably happen. It is fear, but you can also tap it to destroy target creature. Where it's kind of like, yeah, you can just like. It's one of those things where it's like people respond to, even if your people know that your deck will kill them, people are usually much more responsive to threats when your threats are on board. And it's just a very good card. So, yeah. Doomblade. It's just classic removal spell. And now these are a bit less traditional, but I have 3 auras here, which some of them boast their creature, the creature that you enchant, but with the exception that they can't attack you anymore. Where we have Vow of Lightning, which is change a creature gets +2/+2 and has first strike, but can't attack you or planeswalker you control. And we have a lot of cards that are like making our opponents attack each other, always have to attack anyway, where it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh look, your guy's bigger and not attacking me. So that's nice. One thing about these 2 vows though is that they can still block creatures you control, but like I said, they're going to be attacking every turn, so unless they have vigilance, they won't be an issue anyway. Vow of Duty, which is, why are people driving around so much this late at night? 2 and a white for an enchantment. Change your creature gets +2/+2, has vigilance, and can attack you or planeswalker you control. Like this one's a little awkward because this one will be able to block your creatures, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world because it's like most of the time, your goal you're not going to be the one like killing your opponents. Your opponents will be killing your opponents, and you'll clean up the survivor. I would recommend against doom blading anyone at your office. It probably would have to go down to HR if you were to doom blade it. It doesn't seem like it's within company policy for the most part. Then we have Spectral Grasp, which doesn't give any bonuses, but also makes it so they can't block your creature. So it's just kind of like it's also a little bit cheaper. Spectral Grasp, another card which like I feel like should be like played a lot more in Commander, but just isn't. Alright, next okay, we have Crackling Doom, which is just a final removal spell, which is an edict for everyone, but it's an edict that causes them to sacrifice their biggest creature. But also instant speed, which is nice. So, just a final bit of peace. Alright, onto our wipes. Like this board wipe, like board wipes are nice. Like sometimes, hey there, how's it going? Whereas like this deck wants to have like a lot of board wipes, or like, hey, sometimes the board's getting out of control, you need to wipe it, and you need an answer to like a lot of things getting out of control. Because this deck isn't super creature heavy. But first up we have Last One Standing, which isn't the best wipe, but I like it a lot because it's funny, which is 1 black red for choose a creature at random and then destroy the rest. I don't know, I think it causes cool moments. I like the randomness aspect, and it's fun. Okay, not strictly board wipe, but we got Vona's Hunger, which is 2 and a black with Ascend. But in Commander, usually you don't have an issue getting to the City's Blessing, which is having 10 or more permanents. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, and if you have the City's Blessing, instead they sacrifice half the creatures they control, rounded up. So, I mean, it's not a board wipe, but it does get rid of half the creatures on the board at instant speed, which is quite solid. Day of Judgment, just classic board wipe. We got Settle the Wreckage, which it's also like it's one exiles, which is obviously like not as ideal, but I have this in here as kind of like it's a board wipe in the sense of like it is one of those things that's kind of like, don't attack me. I have a threat. I will follow through with my threat. Don't mess with me. And if you do, you're gonna get your record shattered because we're playing standard apparently. But yeah, so cleansing nova. Just a newer board wipe, but it's modal. It's useful. Sometimes, like most of the time, I find in Commander, both modes are actually very relevant. So, yeah. Hallowed Burial, which is sometimes like it's not an exile, but sometimes you do just want to. There is a graveyard player or something like, and you need to get rid of a creature that can't go to the graveyard. And tucking them all at the bottom of their owner's libraries is a pretty good way to get rid of their stuff. And next section we have is just card advantage, because I mean this Terminus Junior. Like I consider Terminus, but this deck doesn't quite have the amount of like top deck manipulation to really like warrant the Terminus. But first we have Phyrexian Arena, which is just we have a card advantage engine because we do have a lot of spot removal, which will usually put us down cards a lot. So we have a fair amount of card advantage to take advantage of that. But Phyrexian Arena, just classic. You can draw an extra card every turn, and for the cost of some life, it's solid. Oh yeah, this is real nice. Like, granted, I do like the original art with Gerard and Urza, but yeah. This specific every thingamajig, it's a 6 mana. Its first mode is Mana Rock, which is sometimes useful, and you can also just add lots of mana, use it to kill creatures. But I'm mostly doing it for like kind of this fun way of the second one, which is because this group is a bunch of kind of like lore nerds and things like that. Where but it's one tap at this. Say the flavor text on a card in your hand. Target opponent guesses that card's name. You may reveal that card. If you do and your opponent guessed wrong, draw a card. So it's a cheeky way to draw, like spend a mana to draw a card while like having like a fun little game part of it. So I think it's fun. Underworld Connections. It's just essentially Phyrexian Arena 2. Indulgent Tormentor. Like, this is a 5-mana 5/3 flying demon, and at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card unless target opponent sacrifices a creature or pays 3 life. This is in here for just kind of like this like political angle of just kind of like the punishing your opponents, like making decisions and kind of like doing those things. And that sort of thing. Sin Prodder. Oh, I love this card. It's a 2/3, or it's a 3/2 with menace for 3. At the not in this deck. I actually don't own either of those. They're not in the deck. Stefan I just don't have, and Immortal Sun I'm just waiting to rotate out of standard before I pick one up. But Sinbrother, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Any opponent may have that you put that card into their graveyard. If a player does, it deals damage to that player equal to its CMC. So it's kind of like, you rarely get a good card out of this, but it does kind of like whittle down your opponents over time and things like that. So yeah, no, it's like, I quite like it. And it's like one of those cool, like, I don't know, not so much that it's good card advantage, but like that it kind of like forces these like questions onto your opponent, like, what are you willing to let me do? And honestly, this deck doesn't mind your opponents knowing what you're drawing. Like, just knowing it's like, yeah, I have all these removal spells in my hand. Don't do anything you want me to do, or I'll kill you. Atali Primal Storm. Mostly because I just love playing with my opponent's decks. But it's a 6-mana 6/6 dinosaur, and whenever it attacks, exile a top card of each player's library, and then you may cast any number of not playing their mana cost. No, playing with your opponent's decks is fun, and it's not a bad way to do it. And, yeah. Siphon Mind. I mean, it's just an efficient black draw spell. It's a 4 mana. Each player draws a card, and you draw a card for each card discarded this way. I mean, 4 mana draw 3 isn't a bad rate, and the fact that you also get to hit 3 cards in your opponent's hand is not bad. So, yeah. It's just a pretty commander staple. Stolen Strategy. Again, playing with your opponent's cards, but it's a 5 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards from among those exiled cards. You may spend mana as though for mana of any color to cast those spells. Who's the commander in the deck? It would be Mathas, Fiend Seeker. So I don't know how well that showed up. But yeah. I run Italian standard. Giving him right is a lot of fun. One still for Raskov and Demanding Dragon. Nice. Yeah, no, Italia's cool. I kind of feel like I need to build a dinosaur deck because dinosaurs are awesome. And yeah, I really need to build a dinosaur tribal deck. That's kind of like a permanent deck for me. But yeah, no, still a tragedy. I don't know. I like playing with my opponent's cards a lot. And there's just something very nice with like these kind of political decks to just kill your opponents with your opponent's cards. Hey there, how's it going? Thanks for coming. Likewise, we're talking about playing for opponent's decks. You have Gonti, Lord of Luxury, who essentially you can look at top 4 cards of your opponent's library. You can cast, like, choose one of them you want to cast. But he's also like a 2/3 Death Touch, and from a political angle, I mean, Death Touchers are just really good at deterring attackers, so, yeah. This card should have been in removal. We have Rakdos Charm, which is, choose one. Exile all target cards from target player's graveyard. Graveyard hate is important, kids. This deck could probably run some more, but graveyard hate is important. Don't cut graveyard hate from your decks. Or destroy target artifact. Or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. Usually you run this as a removal spell, but sometimes you'll just get into a board state where you're just like, I cast Rakdos Charm and win from the last mode, so... Yeah, I don't know, it's just one of those things where it's like, I feel like there's like, you have to run some bad ones, and I don't mind. I'm honestly building more Dino Tribal for the aesthetics of Dino Tribal. Chaos Wand, I guess it's kind of go into card advantage, but just casting instant sorceries from opponent's decks is nice and fun, and I want to try out this card a bit more in Commander. And then finally, just kind of like slowing down your opponents and like preventing like other people from just winning out of nowhere. We have both Authority of the Consuls, which causes your opponent's creatures intertapped, and you gain life when they do play creatures, and Blind Obedience, which is a very similar effect, but also gives all your stuff Extort, which is, I like these cards in these kind of like slowly grindy tempo decks for just like kind of generating advantage over time. Yeah, no, both these cards are great. Like, a turn 1 Authority in Commander is just nuts. Yeah, no, but both of these are real nice. But yeah, I can actually, but yeah, no, that is the deck. But yeah, no, it's just something I threw together pretty fast, and, but we, got that here. But just something I threw together, and I'm gonna, exciting, I'll let people know how it performs at game night next week. Which is kind of cool that I can put together. We got the timing just about right, because it's about 10 minutes about midnight, and once we hit midnight, we're gonna start the next section of the stream where we're doing our next chapter of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Playing Knights and Assassins last week. It was a night that had to protect my King's Dino Knight Tribal. Looked like a lot of fun. Definitely not enough dinos, but Gesheth seems like a cool commander. Yeah, no, totally. goodness. I need to get a chef either way because I need to make a dinosaur tail for my my cube. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It'll depend on how cooperative the other members of the group will be. This is an interesting group because it's a group of a lot of the cosplayers, and like the Magic Gathering cosplayers. But there's a high level of like variety and like power levels and skill levels among that group, because like you have these like the classic stereotypical like, oh haha, cosplayers can't like play Magic. Although there's not many of the people there, but like there's a people who are on the lower spectrum end of the spectrum, and then you have like people who are just like insane at the game and amazing, and I'm pretty distinctly like in the middle, I feel. Do we ever play in costume? Usually only at GPs, and like even then at GPs I don't actually play that much Magic, but like at GP Seattle last year we had there was a whole Commander and Cosplay like tournament, charity tournament that we did, that I came in second at, out of like 20 people, which was honestly a fluke, but yeah, or so many things. But yeah, no, I'll definitely be playing in cosplay I will be at GP Seattle this summer, cosplaying, and I gotta get to work on making some of those cosplays. No, I only have one together right now. I have, okay, I have Liliana Heretical Healer done, and I need to make some updates, but she's pretty much done and ready to go. And, I have the Dryad and March of the Multitudes pretty much ready to go. I just gotta fix up some things there, and, well, I need to finish the wig, which is the main thing, but the dress is looking good and all that, and I'll get a photo shoot in a little bit for that, and then I have some other cool things in the works for GP Seattle, which I'm all excited for. Oh. But yeah, I'm not just killing time until midnight, because I'm trying to stay on some amount of schedule for people who actually want to come at midnight for the reading section. Yeah, also probably wouldn't be allowed in the convention center. Wait, I have a deck here. I have a deck that I need to shuffle here. That's a... can't get all the cards. Oh, man. None of my cosplays really have weapons. Like, Liliana Heretical Healer doesn't have a weapon. In fact, it has very little arm mobility, like the wrap thing she has around her shoulders is really not great. It's really restrictive. And then March of the Multitudes doesn't have anything. She's just kind of like there with like green glowy stuff coming out of her hands. I just had the heater come on. Is that too loud? Oh. I mean, there's also the fact that I am a black belt in Taekwondo, so that's also a weapon I have. I will open up this link and I will check it out later. Sweet, cool. I'm just making sure it's not too loud because the heater can get a bit loud when it goes on, because I'm like it's down in the garage, but I'm like right above the garage, so it's kind of loud in my room. Yeah, no, my wish list is very long. Well, it's kind of like if I see a card that I like, oh, that looks remotely great in my cube. It goes onto the wish list, and I need to probably prune it a bit. And also, like, just, like, go up to Mox and just be, like, go through and, like, okay, let's get all these 10-cent cards and, like, just, like, get away, like, 100 of these cards and just kind of, like, trim it down a bit. But I haven't been out to Mox lately very much. No. Yeah. Alright, well, it is getting about to the time where we want to swap over gears. Oh, okay, there's the sound for thing. Alright, let me know if that heater is getting too loud. Let me see a Taekwondo demonstration video. I don't know, I know, that's one thing I need someone else to film. I can't film that myself, is the main thing. Where it's like, I'd love to do one, but it's just hard, obviously just hard for me to film. So, yeah. So, jumping back into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is, honestly, my favorite book, of all time. I'm gonna get myself comfy. If you don't like it, it's your problem. But, let's see if we can get, like, the actual, like, camera work to work well with this. No, my face is not in that shot. Okay, that position. I'll figure that out later. Oh. Alrighty, well. Oh. When you do reading laying down on your back, that'll become a position. I will see if I can figure out in the future, because I do like, kind of like, just like lying and reading. I don't know, I need to figure out like a better, like this is obviously, I don't mind this set, but I want to make it a bit nicer set, and like, just kind of like being like nice and cozy and relaxing and getting all that together, because I kind of want like these like Friday night streams to be like, hey, we're getting ready for bed, we're getting cozy and relaxed and stuff. Donations card form, I don't have a P.O. box, I just don't have enough stuff to like warrant it. Thank you, but yeah, it's just I don't have the infrastructure for it right now. Your best bet would be catch me at a GP. Oh. Alrighty. Alright. Chapter 2 of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Here's what the Encyclopedia Galactica has to say about alcohol. It says that alcohol is a colorless, volatile liquid formed by fermentation of sugars, and also notes its intoxicating effects on certain carbon-based life forms. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentions alcohol. It says that the best drink in existence is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. It says that the effect of drinking a Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster is like having your brains smashed out by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick. The guide also tells you on which planets the best Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters are mixed, how much you can expect to pay for one, and what voluntary organizations exist to help you rehabilitate afterwards. The guide even tells you how to mix one yourself. Take the juice from one bottle of the old Jank Spirit, it says. Pour it into 1 measure of water from the seas of Sagittarius 5. Oh, that Sagittarian seawater, it says. Oh, those Sagittarian fish. Allow 3 cubes of Arcturan Mega Gin to wash into the mixture It must be properly iced, or the benzene is lost. Allow 4 liters of Thalian marsh gas to bubble through it, in memory of all those happy hikers who have died of the pleasure in the marshes of Phalia. Over the back of a silver spoon float a measure of the qualactin hypermint extract, redolent of all the body odors of the qualincan zones, subtle, sweet, and mystic. Drop in the tooth of the Algolian sun tiger. Watch it dissolve, spreading the fires of the Algolian suns deep into the heart of the drink. Sprinkle Zampor and an olive. Drink, but very carefully. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sells rather better than the Encyclopedia Galactica. "Since 6 pints of beer," said Ford Prefect to the barman of the Horse and Groom. "And quickly, the world's about to end." The barman of the Horse and Groom didn't deserve this sort of treatment. He was a dignified old man. He pushed his glasses up to his nose and blinked at Ford Prefect. Ford ignored him and stared out the window, so the barman looked instead at Arthur, who shrugged helplessly and said nothing. So the barman said, "Oh, yes, sir. Nice weather for it." And started pulling pints. He tried again. "Going to watch the match this afternoon?" Ford glanced round at him. No point," he said, looking back out the window. "Well, forgive what's that foregone conclusion, then, you reckon, sir?" asked the barman. Arsenal without a chance?" "Oh, no," said Ford. "It's just the world's about to end." Oh, yes, sir, as you said," the barman, looking over his glass this time at Arthur. "Lucky escape for Arsenal if it did." I need to really stop going, deeper and deeper for, my male voices, because I cannot go that deep. No, Ford looked back at him, genuinely surprised. "No, not really," he said. He frowned. The barman breathed in heavily. "There you are, sir, 6 pence," he said. Arthur smiled at him wanly and shrugged again. He turned and smiled wanly at the rest of the pub, just in case any of them had heard what was going on. None of them had, and none of them could understand what he was smiling at them for. A man sitting next to Ford at the bar looked at the 2 men, looked at the 6 pints, did a swift burst of mental arithmetic, and arrived at an answer he liked, and grinned a stupid, hopeful grin at them. "Get off," said Ford. "They're ours," giving him what would have been made an Algolian sun tiger get on with what he was doing. Ford slapped a 5-pound note at the bar. He said, "Keep the change." What, from a 5er? "Thank you, sir." "You've got about 10 minutes to spend it." The barman simply decided to walk away for a bit. "Ford," said Arthur, "would you please tell me what the hell is going on?" "Drink up," said Ford. "You've got 3 pints to get through." 3 pints, said Arthur. "At lunchtime?" The man next to Ford grinned and nodded happily, and Ford ignored him. He said, "Time is an illusion, and lunchtime doubly so." "Very deep," said Arthur. "You should send that in to the Reader's Digest. They've got a page for people like you." "Drink up." "Why 3 pints all of a sudden?" "Muscle relaxant. You'll need it." "Muscle relaxant?" "Muscle relaxant." Arthur stared into the beer. "Did I do anything wrong today?" he said. "Or has the world always been like this? I've been too wrapped up in myself to notice." "All right," said Ford. "I'll try to explain. How long have we known each other?" How long, Arthur thought. About 5 years, maybe 6, he said. Most of it seemed to make some kind of sense at the time. "All right," said Ford. "How would you react if I said that I'm not from Guilford at all, but from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Beetlejuice?" Arthur shrugged in a so-so sort of way. I don't know, he said, taking a pull of beer. Why? Do you think it's the sort of thing you're likely to say? Ford gave up. It really wasn't worth bothering at this point. What with the world being about to end? He just said, "Drink up." He added, perfectly factually, "The world is about to end." Arthur gave the rest of the pub another wan smile. The rest of the pub frowned at him. A man waved at him to stop smiling at them and mind his own business. "This must be Thursday," said Arthur to himself, singing low over his beer. "I never could get the hang of Thursdays." Chapter 3. Chapter 2 is very short. On this particular Thursday, Lee needs to sneeze. On this particular Thursday, something was moving quietly through the ionosphere many miles above them, above the surface of the planet. Several somethings, in fact. Several dozen large, chunky, slab-like somethings, huge as office blocks, silent as birds. They soared with ease, basking in electromagnetic rays from the star soul, biding their time, grouping, preparing. The planet beneath them was almost perfectly oblivious of their presence, which was just how they wanted it for the moment. The huge level yellow something went unnoticed at Goonhilly. They passed over Cape Canaveral without a blip. Woomera and Jodelbank looked straight through them, which was a pity, because it was exactly the sort of things they'd been looking for all these years. The only place they registered at all was on a small black device called a Subethera Sensomatic, which winked away quietly to itself. It nestled in the darkness inside a leather satchel, which Ford Prefect habitually wore slung around his neck. The contents of Ford Prefect's satchel were quite interesting, in fact. It would have made any Earth physicist's eyes pop out of his head, which is why he always concealed them by keeping a couple de-geared scripts for plays he pretended he was auditioning for stuffed in the top. Besides the Subethera Sensomatic and the scripts he had an electric thumb, a short, squat black rod, smooth and matte, with a couple of flat switches and dials on one end. He also had a device that looked rather like a largest electric calculator. This was about 100 tiny flat press buttons and a screen about 4 square inches, on which one of the million pages could be summoned at a moment's notice. It looked insanely complicated. And this was one of the reasons why the snug plastic cover fitted over it had the words "Don't Panic" printed on it in large, friendly letters. The other reason was that this device was in fact the most remarkable of all books ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The reason why it was published in this form of a micro-sub-meson electronic component, if that were printed in normal book form, an interstellar hitchhiker would require several inconveniently large buildings to carry it around in. Beneath that in Ford Prefect's satchel was a few ballpoints, a notepad, and a largest bath towel from Marks and Spencer. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has a few things to say on the subject of towels. A towel, it says, is about the most massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can have, partly because it has great practical value. You can wrap it around you for warmth as you bound across the cold moons of Jagland Beta. You can lie on it in the brilliant marble-sanded beaches of Sagittarius Sangradnus 5, inhaling the heady sea vapors. You can sleep under it beneath the stars which shine so redly in the desert of the world of Kakrafoon. Use it to sail a mini raft down the slow, heavy river Moth, wet Wet it for your use in hand-to-hand combat. Wrap it around your head to ward off noxious fumes or to avoid the gaze of the rat-finished bug-bladder beast of the trawl. A mind-bogglingly stupid animal. It assumes that if you can't see it, it can't see you. A daft as a brush, but very, very ravenous. You can wave your towel in emergencies as a distress signal, and of course, dry yourself off with it if it still seems to be clean enough. More importantly, a towel has immense psychological value. For some reason, if a strag, non-hitchhiker, discovers that a hitchhiker has a towel with him, he will automatically assume that he is also in possession of a toothbrush, a washcloth, soap, a tin of biscuits, flask, compass, mask, map, ball of string, gnat spray, weather wet gear, spacesuit, etc., etc. Furthermore, the strag will then happily lend the hitchhiker any of those or a dozen other items which the hitchhiker might accidentally have lost. What the strag will think was that any man who can hitch the length and breadth of the galaxy, rough it, slum it, and struggle against the terrible odds, and win through and still know where his towel is clearly a man to be reckoned with. Hence, a phrase that has passed into hitchhiking slang as in, Hey, you sass that happy hoopy Ford prefect. There is a Frood who really knows where his towel is. Sass, no, beware of meat, have sex with. Hoopy, rather to really together guy. Frood, really amazing together guy. Nestling quietly on top of the towel in Ford Prefect's satchel, the Subithetha Sensomatic began to wink more quickly. Miles above the surface of the planet, the huge yellow somethings began to fan out. At Jordal Bank, someone decided that it was time for a nice relaxing cup of tea. You got a towel with you? Said Ford suddenly to Arthur. Arthur, shrugging through his third pint, looked round at him. What, why, no, what should I have? He had long given up being so surprised, and there didn't seem to be any point any longer. Drink up, he urged. At that moment, the dull sound of a rumbling crash from outside filtered through the low murmur of the pub, through the sound of the jukebox, through the sound of the man next to Ford hiccuping over the whiskey Ford had eventually bought him. Arthur choked on his beer and leapt to his feet. What's that? He yelped. Don't worry, said Ford. They haven't started yet. Thank God for that, said Arthur and relaxed. It's probably just your house being knocked down, said Ford, drowning his last pint. What? Said Arthur. Suddenly Ford's spell was broken. Arthur looked wildly about him and ran to the window. My God, they are! They're knocking my house down. What the hell am I doing in the pub, Ford? It hardly makes any difference at this stage. Let them have their fun. Fun? Yelled Arthur. Fun? He quickly checked out the window again, and that they were talking about the same thing. Damn their fun! He hooted, and ran out of the pub, furiously waving a nearly empty beer glass. He made no friends at all in the pub that lunchtime. Stop, you vandals! Stop, you cretins! You home wreckers, bawled Arthur. You half-crazed Visigoths! Stop, will you? Ford would have to go after him. Turning quickly to the barman, he asked for 4 packets of peanuts. There you are, said the barman, slapping his packets on the bar. 28 pence, if you'd be so kind. Ford was very kind. He gave the barman another £5 note and told him to keep the change. The barman looked at it, and then looked at Ford. He suddenly shivered and experienced a momentary sensation that he didn't understand, because no one on Earth had ever experienced it before. In moments of great stress, every life form that exists gives out a tiny subliminal signal. This signal simply communicates an exact and almost pathetic sense of how far that being is from the place of his birth. On Earth, it is never possible to be farther than 16,000 miles from your birthplace, which really isn't that far. So such signals are too minute to be noticed. Ford Prefect was at the moment under great stress, and he was born 600 light years away in the nearby vicinity of Betelgeuse. Oh, well, have a wonderful night and hope you sleep well. The barman reeled for a moment, hit by a shocking, incomprehensible sense of distance. He didn't know what it meant, but he looked at Ford Prefect with a new sense of respect, almost awe. "Are you serious, sir?" he said in a small whisper, which had the effect of silencing the pub. You think the world's going to end?" "Yes." "But this afternoon?" Ford had recovered himself. He was at his flippest. "Yes," he said grayly. "In less than 2 minutes, I would estimate." The barman couldn't believe this conversation he was having, but he couldn't believe the sensation he had just had either. "Is there anything we can do can we do about it then?" he said. "No, not really," said Ford, stuffing peanuts into his jacket. Someone in the hush bar suddenly laughed raucously at how stupid everyone had become. The man sitting next to Ford was getting a bit sozzled by now. His eyes weaved their way up to Ford. "I thought that if the world was going to end, and we meant to lie down or put a paper bag over our head or something." "If you like, yes." "That's what they told us in the army," said the man, and his eyes began the long trek back towards his whiskey. "Will that help?" asked the barman. "No," said Ford, and gave them a friendly smile. "Excuse me," he said. "I've got to go." With a wave, he left. The pub was silent for a moment longer, and then, embarrassingly enough, the man with the raucous laugh did it again. The girl he had dragged along to the pub with him had grown to loathe him dearly over the last hour. It would have probably been a great satisfaction to her to know that in a minute and a half or so he would suddenly evaporate into a whiff of hydrogen, ozone, and carbon monoxide. However, when the moment came, she too would be busy evaporating herself to notice it. The barman cleared his throat. He heard himself say, "Last orders, please." The huge yellow machines began to sink downward and to move faster. Ford knew they were there. This wasn't the way he wanted it. Running up the lane, Arthur had nearly reached his home. He didn't notice how cold it had suddenly become. He didn't notice the wind. He didn't notice the sudden irrational squall of rain. He didn't notice anything but the caterpillar bulldozer crawling over the rubble that had once been his home. "You barbarians," he yelled. "I'll sue the council for every penny it's got. I'll have you hung, drawn, and quartered, and whipped, and boiled until you've had enough." Ford was running after him very fast. Very, very fast. And I'll do it again," yelled Arthur. "And when I'm finished, I will take them all the little bits, and I will jump on them." Arthur didn't notice that the men were running from the bulldozers. He didn't notice that Mr. Prosser was staring hectically into the sky. And what Mr. Prosser noticed was that huge yellow somethings that were screaming through the clouds. Impossibly huge yellow somethings. "And I will carry on jumping on them." Jumping on them," yelled Arthur, still running, "until I get blisters, or I can think of anything else more unpleasant to do, and then—" Arthur tripped, and fell headlong, rolled and landed flat on his back. At last he noticed that something was going on. His finger shot upward. What the hell is that?" he shrieked. Whatever it was raced across the sky in its monstrous yellowness, tore the sky apart with mind-boggling noise, and leaped off into the distance, leaving the gaping air to shut behind with a bang that drove your ears 6 feet into your skull. Another one followed and did exactly the same thing, only louder. It is difficult to say exactly what the people on the surface of the planet were doing now, because they didn't really know what they were doing themselves. None of it made a lot of sense. Running into houses, running out of houses, howling noiselessly at the noise. All around the world, city streets exploded with people. Cars skid into each other as the noise fell onto them, and they rolled off like a tidal wave over hills and valleys, deserts and oceans, seeming to flatten everything it hit. Only one man stood and watched the sky, stood with terrible sadness in his eyes and rubber bungs in his ears. He knew exactly what was happening, and he had known ever since his sub-etheric sensomatic had started winking in the dead of night beside his pillow and wakened him with a start. It was what he had waited for all these years, but when he had deciphered the signal pattern sitting alone in a small dark room, a coldness had gripped them and seized his heart. Of all the races in all the galaxy who could have come and said a big hello to the planet Earth, he thought, didn't it just have to be the Vogons? Still, he knew what he had to do. As the Vogon craft screamed through the air, high above them he opened his satchel. He threw away a copy of Josephus and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. He threw away a copy of Godspell. He wouldn't need them where he was going. Everything was ready, and everything was prepared. He knew where his towel was. A sudden silence hit the earth. If anything, it was worse than a noise. For a while, nothing happened. The great ships hung motionless in the sky, over every nation on earth. Motionless they hung, huge, heavy, steady in the sky, a blasphemy against nature. Many people went straight into shock as their minds tried to encompass what they were looking at. The ships hung in the sky in much the same way that bricks don't. And still, nothing happened. Then there was a slight whisper, a sudden spacious whisper of open ambient sound. Every hi-fi set in the world, every radio, every... Sorry. Every hi-fi in the world, every radio, every television, every cassette recorder, every woofer, every tweeter, every mid-range driver in the world quietly turned itself on. Every tin can, every dustbin, every window, every car, every wine glass, every sheet of rusty metal became activated as an acoustically perfective sounding board. Before the earth passed away, it was going to be treated to the very ultimate in sound reproduction, the greatest public address system ever built. But there was no concert, no music, no fanfare, just a simple message.
People of Earth, your attention, please,
a voice said, and it was wonderful. Wonderfully perfect quadrophonic sound with distortion levels so low as to make a brave man weep.
This is Positronic Vogon Jets of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council, the voice continued. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for the development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspace express route through your star system. And regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The promise will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you.
The PA died away. Uncomprehending terror settled on the watching people of Earth. The terror moved slowly through the gathered crowds as if they were iron filling on a sheet of board, and a magnet was moving beneath them. Panic sprouted again, desperate fleeing panic, but there was nowhere to flee to. Observing this, the Vogons turned on their PA again. It said,
There's no point in acting all surprised about this. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display at your local planning department in the Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years, so you've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaint, and it's far too late to start making a fuss about it now.
The PA fell silent, and its echo drifted across the land. The huge ship turned slowly into the sky with an easing power. On the underside of each, a hatchway opened, an empty black square. By this time, somebody somewhere must have manned a radio transmitter, located a wavelength and broadcast message back to the Vogon ships to plead on behalf of the planet. Nobody ever heard what they said. They only heard the reply. The PA slammed back into life again. The voice was annoyed. It said,
"What do you mean, you've never been to Alpha Centauri? For heaven's sake, mankind, it's only 4 light years away. You know, I'm sorry, but if you can't be bothered taking interest in local affairs, that's your own lookout. Engage the demolition beams."
Light poured out of the hatchways.
"I don't know," said the voice in the PA. "Apathetic bloody planet. I have no sympathy at all."
It cut off. There was a terrible, ghastly silence. There was a terrible, ghastly noise. There was a terrible, ghastly silence. The Vogon constructor fleet coasted away into the inky, starry void. And that's all we're going to read for tonight. So, yeah. Thank you for coming tonight. This has been the second episode of Lily's Library Live. I hope you enjoyed this words that mean things. This video, this stream, and everything. And again, I'm doing this every week starting at 11 o'clock Pacific time. And if you want to hang out with, see anything more, if I do any more spontaneous streams and stuff, you can check me out at the Discord, which I don't think is in the description of this video, but it's in the description of almost every other video I put out. It should really be in the description of my live streams, but I haven't done that because I'm dumb. So, yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for everyone for coming. I had a good time, and if you have any suggestions for any future content you want to see in these evening ones, I did a deck tech today. If there's anything else you want to talk about, or if you have any trigger requests, and really anything I've done a video for, I'm willing to do for these live streams. So yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you all later. I hope you have a wonderful night, and as always, may your stories smile upon you. Bye bye.